We are the Crystal Thems, a Steven Universe podcast, and we are here to save the day by doing a deep dive into every episode of Steven Universe. I'm Liz, and with me is Sid. Say hello, Sid.
Hello.
And today we are doing a deep dive into Season 1, Episode 3, Cheeseburger Backpack.
Yes, so this episode was written and storyboarded by Ian Jones-Cordy and Rebecca Sugar, directed by Seong Wook Yoon and Jae Bok Lee for animation. Kevin Dart was the art director, and Ian Jones-Cordy was the supervising director for this episode. The official synopsis for this episode is: a mission to the Lunar Sea Spire takes a treacherous turn, but Steven has packed his totally amazing cheeseburger backpack with anything they could ever need.
I love the Cheeseburger Backpack.
It's honestly, I want a cheeseburger backpack. That looks very fun.
And then later in the show, we get the hot dog duffel.
I know, I'm like, this is the absolute best combo.
Yeah, I've never wanted a piece of food as a backpack as much as I want a cheeseburger backpack. Cheeseburger backpack.
I saw a backpack that was a bowl of ramen, and each piece of food on the bowl of ramen was its own little separate pocket, and I was like, I regret not buying that because I'll never see it again.
I would lose everything.
Everything would get lost in that bag.
Oh, I would literally have nothing. Like, I would put everything in it and be like, well, shit. I have, because ADHD, I'd be like, I don't see any of this ever, and I forget it exists.
It's gonna go under my bed, and they're gone now.
They're gone. They don't exist. So this episode starts off like the last two. We have the classic open for "We Are the Crystal Gems."
It's so sweet.
So sweet. So good. Once we get past that, we get into
my favorite boy,
Steven, waiting for the mail. Which my question is, how long did it take them to get mail set up here? Like, I can imagine the Crystal Gym sitting at the post office and be like, yes, no, we need mail here.
They had to have registered their house. Like, who helped them with all of the, I'm assuming, tax recognizable things of getting your house registered, getting plumbing set up in this house?
Yeah, I can't imagine it's Greg. Maybe it is Greg, but I can't imagine he'd be like, okay, so now you need this.
I'm just going to default to the person who helps them with human things is Vidalia. That's going to be my new mental default because Vidalia's got her life together.
Vidalia took Amethyst to the post office. Is like, all right, Amethyst, tell them where you live.
I was born in a rock. Oh, Amethyst, that's not what it... Okay.
It's not what I meant. So yeah, so that was my first note was, I wonder how long it took him to get the mail. And then also, I guess I'll wait for just a second because, Steven's waiting for the mail. He's singing his song. And then Jamie comes around the corner, so we get another new character. We got Jamie the mailman.
My first note is literally just Jamie! All exclamation points. I'm like, hey, it's the boy.
It's the little boy Jamie. So, of course. So my question, I had a hard time telling. I want to see your opinion on this. Part of me was like, oh, like Jamie's used to Steven's shenanigans and just messing with him. The other part of me, I was like, to me, it also seems like Jamie doesn't ever do mail here, and was mildly confused.
I think he was messing with Steven.
Like, every time I watched it, I had a different vibe. So I don't know if it's just me looking too deep into this because I'm watching each episode 1,000 times.
I think when he was doing the bit with the oh, is this your mail? Oh, is this your mail? I think that was a little bit that he was doing, but I think he was genuinely confused about the backpack stuff.
For sure. I also would very much like a spin-off episode about the story of who mailed a loaf of bread.
Yeah, I gotta know what's going on.
Like, why are we mailing a loaf of bread? Also, it looks like one really big slice of bread.
It looks huge. I mean, also, Jamie continues to be a responsible adult who, when Steven's like, well, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl say I shouldn't go on adventures because I don't have my gem powers, he goes, no, that makes sense.
That makes sense. I mean, Jamie kind of does what the show does best. It just represents all of us. So, Steven lays down information, and we're like, yeah, no, that makes sense. You're a child that cannot defend themselves. You should not go on missions.
That package will save it and fix it. He's like, from wacky sacks to Dios? I think that's where he's like, okay, now the bit's over. I'm really confused about what's going on now.
Yeah, wacky sacks adventures. That seems reasonable.
Yeah, that'll be the thing that saves you from not having powers.
And he plays along, and then he's like, "And you also have to sign here, or else I get in trouble." Which, I mean, yeah, you probably should
Yeah.
do your
I mean,
job.
I can understand. No one signs for their packages. They just go, "Give me the package," and then leave. And he's like, "Well, I can't get you to sign it now."
Yep, like you need to
He was like,
sign
I
this.
definitely can get Steven to sign it, especially with this little game we've got going on."
I also have a note that I have been Jamie in this circumstance so many times where, a kid will say the wildest shit to you, and you just go,
Mm-hmm.
"Uh-huh,
Totally. Yep.
yeah, that sounds fair." Like, you're like, "I don't know how to respond to this child telling me," like, I've had children tell me some weird things. I once had a kid tell me they're going to burn my house down,
Weird.
and I was like, "Okay, that sounds fun." Like, how do you respond to a child telling you that?
You look at their parents and go, "Are you cool with this?"
Yep, I was like, "Okay, well, enjoy."
Yeah. Oof.
I don't always have the best response to things, so it's fine.
Also, I would like to point out Steven's signature. It's so cute. He just writes his name and it is very childlike in that he does not know cursive and doesn't know like I'm not gonna sign it in cursive, but he puts little stars all around it. And that's so cute.
Yeah, he decorates it, and you're like, "Oh, Steven, you're
Tiny little
adorable."
baby.
So Steven gets his backpack, and we're still like, "What's in the package that's gonna help you save the day? What is a wacky sack?" But the gems kinda bamf back, and Steven comes running in to greet them, and they're covered, well, Garnet's covered in feathers,
That is true.
and Amethyst has a massive
Also, Pearl
egg.
is holding something, a little plot device.
Pearl is holding a little plot device, a little crystal-looking buddy. We don't know anything about it just yet. We're distracted by a giant egg.
It will never stop being funny to me that one, all they have in their fridge is milk and bagels, and two, the slow pull for Amethyst of like taking the tray out and then just dropping it on the floor. I'm
Just
like, that will
dumping
never
it.
not be funny to me. It's too good.
Okay, who keeps bagels in their fridge? Do you keep
I don't keep
bagels in your
bagels, but I do
fridge?
keep bread in there. Yeah,
Really?
if I know I'm not gonna eat it fast enough, I'll put the bread in the fridge so it doesn't get moldy.
Oh, I guess I just don't eat a lot of bread. I don't particularly okay, I'm gonna probably get a lot of shit for this. I don't really like bread, like
That's
sliced
fair.
bread. I'm a fancy
Ah,
bitch.
see, I am not.
So I like nice bread, not just because I don't know, like regular sliced bread. My cats give me a look when I said I'm a fancy bitch. I like good homemade breads, preferably because sliced bread I feel like just gets really soggy and gross and
That's fair.
weird.
I don't eat the bread itself. Like I'll toast it and then I'll put things on there because I don't want it to get soggy. And also, I want a grilled cheese very often, and
Grilled
sliced
cheeses are
bread is
good.
how I get my grilled cheese.
I'm also wondering because it seems like Amethyst does this a lot. How much food has Steven lost because Amethyst has just like dumped it
Because
out?
like the gems don't eat, so food means nothing to them. But Steven has definitely gone, well, I guess I'm eating fry bits today for dinner, which
I've had fry bits and donuts, and that's all I've eaten. So yeah, Amethyst takes that out. Amethyst takes out the food, dumps it, throws the egg in there, slams the door, and we hear a fateful crack and just see some goo start leaking from underneath the fridge.
it is so obvious that that egg's cracked and just falling over. It's gonna be a nightmare to clean later.
I cannot imagine how gross it would be with just a suddenly broken egg in there. So gross, so gross. It probably smells so bad. So we turn back to Pearl and Steven, and Pearl explains that they're just here for a second because they have to go deliver this nice plot device to the lunar temple. So it's called a moon goddess.
Yeah, the moon goddess statue on like which on the Lunar Sea Spire, which immediately I go, do you have deities? Like, why do you have a goddess?
Yeah, they kind of mention this, and I feel like they don't ever really mention it again about this like goddess, like deity goddess thing.
Which is weird.
I have the same question.
Because also, like, the only deity or like at least powers that they would have would be the diamonds. Which I will point out, it looks like the statue is holding a diamond.
It does look like that.
Also, no, like the very later when we see the images of the diamonds in their murals, they all look super different. And that looks like the original blue diamond design, just without the veil.
That's true. That's true.
I never bring it up again.
But yeah, I wonder if it is a It is blue, and it's only like a kind of bluish white diamond of sorts. This I feel like is another indication of how kind of stuck in the past Pearl is.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, "Oh, Steven, you should have seen it in its heyday. It was so fun, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah." She's projecting this little picture of it and then just being like, "It's abandoned, but, like, we can still save it. We can make it what it was." I mean, because for a good chunk of, like, the first season, I feel like she's very, very stuck in the past and what it used to
Yeah. I
be.
have that note in there where it's like Pearl continues to have a love-hate relationship with just Homeworld. Loves the ideas behind it. Like, she clearly loves the ideas of what the court life was like and the beauty she saw in it, but not the actual functions of Homeworld.
I feel like she's those kids you went to high school with that, like, 10 years later at your 10-year reunion, it's like, "Oh, man, high school is so fun, like, I remember when we did this and this and this," and you're just kinda like, "Do you actually remember high school, or are you just remembering, like, this weird fantasy high school that you think you went to?" Like, high school is not like that, my
Your memories are
dudes.
definitely skewed.
Yeah, that's what I kinda feel like. That's what I kinda wanna equate her
I will
to.
also say that is definitely a place for the higher up gems. Like, it's unclear early on because most of the like Amethyst is very clearly a soldier or was built to be one. And then Garnet's a fighter, and we don't find out until later that they're actually a fusion and a mixture of a lower class gem and a higher class gem. But for Pearl, this is like the very first moment we see you are clearly high upper crust
Yes. She was definitely up, to the higher epsilon,
echelon.
thank you, echelon of, like, gym culture, which we really don't know much about gym culture at this point, or the hierarchy of it, but you definitely
Yeah,
she was fancy.
even with
She
like no
fancy.
knowledge, this is clearly the fancy place. The design of all the gems in that brief moment is a very fancy updo. The concept of having a sea spire, it's like that's only where fancy people go. Regular people don't wouldn't go there.
Definitely. It was like, "Oh, they was so nice, you should have seen it." So then, Steven's like, "I have something to help us. I have a cheeseburger backpack," and just whips out this glorious backpack with a
Yeah,
big
I love his little
whoosh.
sound effects. It goes like whoosh, and bling, bling, bling. He's a sweet kid, just excited about his backpack.
Right? And they're like, "It's a hamburger." He's like, "It's a cheeseburger backpack." And I was just gonna, like, wear it and surprise you guys, and you're like, Steven, I know you're young, but in what world have the gyms ever acted that way? Be like, "Dang, Steven, that's so cool."
Amethyst might.
Maybe. I feel like Amethyst would be like, "Steven, what
I
is
think
that?"
Amethyst would be like, would first try and take a bite and then go, Steven, what is that? And then finally, when he explains it, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. It would take some time, Steven. That's not going to be an instant thing. Pearl would never say that. You know that.
Never. Never. I mean, Garnet might, but not like that. Garnet would just be like, "It is a backpack. That is useful."
That's cool, Steven. And then just
Uh,
walk away.
yeah. So Steven's obviously like wanting to help with this mission, and like usual, what we've seen so far, Pearl's like, "You don't have any powers, my little man. Like you can't come with us. Like you're gonna get hurt." And Steven starts putting his foot down. He's like, "I'm a gym. Like I should get to go."
Little up and down he gives of like looking at it, looking at his gem, looking at Pearl, looking at his gem is adorable.
Hmm. And then you have the goblin known as Amethyst that rolls up and be like, "Let's go. It's educational. Bring him with. This is an easy thing."
I was like, let him if you want. You say he doesn't have any training, let him learn. This we're literally walking into an empty place, putting a statue down, and then coming back. And I'm like, that is probably the safest version of a mission Steven could go on.
Yeah, for sure. Now Steven discovers all of the little pieces, the accoutrement of this backpack are all pockets. He's like, "I gotta be like my dad and be a hoarder. I gotta fill this up with stuff. Let's go." So I'm gonna grab some old bagels. I mean, the shit that is in here. I also wrote I think I also started writing a list about like random shit I saw.
He's got bagels, a kite.
Rolled up something, but sticking out, you see this weird like fish man picture that I have questions about. A lot of sweaters and boots that we'll never see him in. And more or less an N64 controller. I recognize that controller. If my brother's listening, he should recognize it too. We fought over it a lot growing up. Love you, big brother. And then we get I have so many questions about just the properties they bring into this. Like this Mr. Queasy. What?
What? Yeah, who's selling this? What medium has a character whose name is Mr. Queasy, and when you shake him, he's like, "Kid, don't shake me. I'm gonna hurl. I've got a medical condition."
Yeah, and it looks like he went to like a crab boil because he has like a crab bib on. It's like, oh,
It's
kid.
so many things. Also, Steven threw out his med kit to put a stuffed animal in
Yes, I mean, as you do. You don't need a med kit when you have Mr. Queasy.
there. True, obviously.
But yeah, I just have questions about like, is this from a show? Is this just like a weird toy they make? 'Cause, like they do make weird toys in the world. I will agree with that. You go to the store these days and there's weird toys all over the place. And you're like, I have questions.
I will never understand the toys where it's like, "Hi, I'm Baby Poops a lot." And you're like, "What? Who is this for?"
Yep. Yeah. Or the popular game, the board game when I was growing up called Don't Wake Up Dad.
Oh yeah, Don't Wake Daddy.
And the whole thing is you need to go around and don't wake up dad. Like we had some weird shit growing up.
That one at least vaguely makes sense. The concept is there.
Yeah, yeah. Or all of the different gummy things that you make, like gross grummy crawlies that looks like snot or whatever.
The snot ones don't make sense. The one that looks like bugs, also, again, weird. But that makes I'll at least eat a gummy worm that looks like a worm.
Mm-hmm. No, you're gonna eat one that looks like an alien. It's a heart.
We're making candy, but it's boogers.
That's so fun and comes out of a nose. So yeah, Mr. Queasy goes into the backpack. I got a medical condition. I hope all of you are enjoying my impression of Mr. Queasy. But yeah, they're like, Steven, we gotta go. And like no one checks his shit. They're like, all right, cool, let's go, little man. Like this boy obviously has some ADHD.
I mean, I wrote in my notes. He's so excited about the backpack. Put that stuffed in toy in there. Definitely won't come up later.
Definitely won't come up later. That is not a plot device at all. You know, he got stuck in his little tum tum to do the warp pad, and he's just floating around, which is really cute.
Also, more proof that the gems don't for them, it doesn't matter about their physical form because they're light, so they can warp wherever. But Steven's got to like move his body into the right position to warp.
And he can actually like move in and out of it. So we get to this gym spire, and this place is not just like abandoned. Like this is a hazard building.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is condemned.
It is falling apart. I mean, immediately from getting there, Steven's like little ledge he's standing on just starts cracking, and he almost falls, and Pearl almost has a fucking heart attack.
Yeah.
Where is this? Is this on Earth or is this somewhere else? Because if this is on Earth, has no one been like, oh hey, this
is definitely on Earth.
Like there's a giant like tower in a whirlpool in the middle of the ocean. Everyone's okay, we're cool at this. Cool. Just checking.
Because we do come back to this, I believe, later when we meet Lapis, which we know this is on Earth in the middle of the ocean.
Yep.
Just again, every time I think about the fact that gems exist in this world, I'm like, has no one ever done anything about the fact that how has no one visited this place as a human? Like, how are the humans not swarming the area?
It is super casual. Like Amelia Earhart's probably like gone down here, and this is where she died. Like, who knows what treasure is hiding here?
It's insane, and no one's looked at it.
No one's questioned it. It is so nonchalant. Like, no, this is fine. Don't worry about it.
So many gem things exist in this world. I'm like, and you didn't. No one's checking.
No one's worried about that.
No one did anything.
No one's worried at all. So yeah, Steven almost falls, and of course Pearl's like, no, like this is it. He's not using his stuff. We gotta go. Let's get out.
I will say there's a little line from Pearl that makes me think, because she said it didn't look like this 100 years ago. Which, yeah, the erosion of time would do that, but also when did you visit this 100 years ago? That would have been after the war.
Yeah.
Have you just been coming around looking at the Sea Spire, reminiscing?
It wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, I believe that, but also wild.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a little bit about how Steven needs therapy. Pearl definitely needs some therapy up in here.
Pearl needs a lot of therapy. And just self-help books.
So many self-help books on like audiobooks. So yeah, Pearl wants to like take him back, and he's like, no, like I need to be here. I'll take it seriously. Like this is where I want to be. And she starts to, oh, this is your heritage. Like, I mean, kind of. I mean, yeah, I guess, but also, when have you ever been like heritage to Steven?
Yeah, I don't. It's weird because I think Pearl has this sort of relationship of like, I want you to learn about gems and gem culture and see your own heritage. She doesn't have that kind of. It's weird because she doesn't have that vibe for most other things, but only she does it for the Sea Spire, which makes me think Pink Diamond probably was here because this is your heritage, not the kindergarten, not the horrible atrocities that were the gems, but the cool stuff that your mom could do, like going to a Lunar Sea
I wonder if
Spire.
Pink Diamond built this or like had this built
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me.
as like a fun place for the diamonds to visit, or not just diamonds but the higher echelon of gym world to be able to come here, because we see much later the whole like swim time with the diamonds. So like this is just pretty much a massive spa swim area.
I will say everything about this area makes me think of Blue Diamond.
Yeah, so maybe she made it for Blue Diamond.
Because Blue Diamond was the one who had the pool. Blue Diamond has a lot of water control. And also, I just remembered it. Image that Pearl showed of the in her head, the statue there looks like.
Yeah, no, with the multiple arms, I mean, that could seem like something Blue Diamond-y. Also, that looked like there is a diamond on the chest. And I can't remember if the Blue Diamond has a diamond where their gym is at.
Yeah, Blue Diamond's is right at that same area in the chest.
Oh, so maybe this was like built by Blue Diamond as like a little
That's what
treat.
makes me figure. Because also, Rose/Pink didn't want anything to do with the colony once she first went down and didn't know how to manage it, probably didn't decide on what buildings did and didn't get built because this was her first colony. So I'm wondering if like Blue and Yellow did some like mom management where they're like, well, you have to have a place for your upper crust gems. You have to have a kindergarten. Just like telling like the checklist of like, these are the things you need. Like the
Right.
checklist of like, this is what you need at your apartment, but this is what you need in your colony.
Right. That makes sense. I like that. So we get kind of the first, they move up to, I'm going to call it Blue Diamond Spa, and they get to kind of their first checkpoint, I guess it could call it, first obstacle, which is their swirling water and it messes with the gravity. So Garnet throws a rock and it gets like halfway across and sinks.
Which, what is that magic? How are you doing that?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. So Steven immediately has an idea and he pulls out some sweaters and he just nonchalantly runs and jumps. I'm just saying those sweaters would have stretched so badly.
Oh yeah, he can't wear those anymore.
Like never could have wear them. Never could wear them again.
Yes.
But I mean, this just shows the first time like that Steven is very capable with. I mean, we've seen it through other episodes, but like those are somewhat just like happenstancey kind of stuff. He happened to find the light cannon. In the first one, I don't remember the first episode anymore because my brain just went whoop. He didn't even use his gem. He just electricity happened to be there, and he threw it and electrocuted the centipedal. So this shows like he's a smart kid and he has a lot of ingenuity.
Yeah. He had a pretty good plan and it worked out. I mean, I'm a little worried about how just nonchalantly you were willing to jump off a cliff, and if it didn't work out, you would have died. But
when you actively know one of your family members can make a whip.
I know, which is what we get next, which is Amethyst makes the whip, picks up Pearl and Garnet, and then just swings across.
Yeah, it's like, can you be like, hey, I have this idea. Try. I feel like it would have the same effect. Nope, he's just going for it, full run, just YOLO. They're like, good job. Pearl's like, don't ever fucking do that again.
I mean, Pearl does the like mom thing of like, don't ever do that again. You just scared me. But also, good job. That was actually really smart. I'm like,
Yeah.
mom, I'm just like, my heart, baby, don't do that. I was scared for you. But congrats. Garnet gives him a little like head pat, and Amethyst does like a shoulder bump.
It's like, good job. So we're walking around. Of course, the whole time they're walking, Pearl's like, oh, that wasn't like this. That's not like this. This isn't right. Do you think Amethyst and Garnet have never been here?
Amethyst for sure has never been here.
But
Garnet
I don't think,
might have.
maybe Sapphire.
Sapphire
But
might have.
I don't think Ruby would have ever been here.
No, I don't, because what was it? It's not until much later that we learn that the guards here were all court soldiers. So Amethyst, if she'd come out at the correct time, would have been here as a guard.
Yeah.
But a Ruby would not have been here.
Would have never been here.
Maybe a Sapphire.
This is also possibly their first time seeing it too. But I mean, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit. I mean, you can kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's just me being old and sappy, but it's sad seeing how like how what am I trying to say? Like how heartbroken Pearl is about this a little bit. Like this was a place that obviously seemed to mean something to her, and I think she just really wishes she could show Steven what it used to be like. But now, it's fallen apart and it has these like crystal worm things everywhere. And it's like it's a little sad about that she just wants to share this thing with Steven and she can't. And it's kind of a reminder that like she can't share this kind of stuff that she grew up with and knew about and how she was, I mean, not grew up, like was raised. And she can never share this with him because it's just not available on Earth.
I know. It's a really like sad moment because Pearl is very just so clearly stuck in the past, but also it's not wrong to want to care about the places that used to matter to you.
Mhm.
And I wonder, like, did she spend a lot of time here with Pink Diamond? Just as, but spoiler, actually, spoiler.
This whole
Pearl,
episode's just been one massive spoiler. So
big
sorry.
spoiler. Did she spend a lot of time here with Pink Diamond as her Pearl, where like Pink Diamond would have to talk to the upper crust gems,
Mhm.
and Pearl was just there all the time, or would they like have fun? Did they sneak around? What were they doing here that gave Pearl such fond memories?
Right. Right. Like it's got some questions. So now we're introduced to these weird like crystal worms thing. Oh, I'm sorry, crystal shrimp is what they are called. And I'm like, they don't look like shrimp.
They don't.
They're worms. So Pearl does what I often do and overthink situations. So Pearl's like, all right, Amethyst, you do this. And Garnet, you do this. Then I'll go over here and it'll perfectly work. And then Steven just goes, oh, hey, I'm just going to throw sandwiches over here. Done.
Yeah, I will say I love Pearl's little minis for everyone. Like they look
I
like
know.
D&D minis where she's like, yeah, and they look so nice. They're so fancy and pretty.
They're nice minis.
Mhm.
I want some minis like that.
The design is so cute.
If I had a 3D printer, I'd make us some minis like that. Some like nice like action figure sized minis of them. But yeah, moving around. So we get a sense of we're getting more of like the crystal's powers. So, before we really didn't see too much that Pearl can do these like projections through her gym. So that's kind of cool. We're getting more of their powers.
It is. It's very cute. Yeah, and also, yeah, we've seen that only Pearl does these projections. We've never seen the other gems do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's clearly either they don't know how or they can't because this is a function of pearls, which would make sense for pearls to
Mm-hmm.
have this ability to share information in a way that like soldier gems like amethyst aren't going to need. And garnet is a fusion, so sapphire would never need that, ruby wouldn't. And then all of the garnet type gems that don't show up in the series but do actually show up in the subsequent apps and games
Mm-hmm.
are war generals. So they also wouldn't have that need.
Right, right. I mean, it makes sense that something, because pearls are kind of there for entertainment. Something that is there for entertainment would have the ability to like project things to entertain, their bosses and stuff.
Yeah, to entertain and also to share information because we do see that Pearl is maybe the most computer-like out of the gems.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we find out not until I think it's only brought up in an interview with Rebecca Sugar that gems were made like they are technically just an AI with given physical form, and Pearl seems to be the most obvious version of that.
Oh yeah, I hadn't heard that interview. That's really interesting, actually.
Yes, it was a big theory. I think it was during season 4 because Rebecca had mentioned that gems are just computers with physical form and that they were made, which everyone brings up like, okay, yeah, we know they're made in the kindergarten, but who made the first gems? Because that was something Rebecca teased, and now everyone was like, wait, hang on, they're just computers? Like, they're not organically made. Who made them then? Who made the computers?
I mean, that makes sense because when they poof out, they like sometimes they like fritz. They go on the fritz.
Like, yeah, we see them genuinely glitch a lot of times. And whenever Pearl has to physically interface with computers, her eyes get that like static that screens do.
Yeah,
So they are AIs and computers given physical form, but I really want to know who made them. Like, who made the first computers?
fascinating.
I have a whole theory about that I won't get into.
I have a note here that the cheeseburger backpack is pretty much just Dora's backpack shaped like a cheeseburger. So like whenever like the random stuff that Steven needs, he just like, it's like, what do I need? And you're looking at the screen, he's like, do I need a hammer? And you're like, no. Do I need a bagel sandwich?
I can't hear you. What was that bagel sandwich?
Do it sandwich. Yeah, exactly. Like, it is just, like, there's side adventures where it's just Steven being like, "What do I need?"
We do also see Garnet use we get a hint at the concept of future vision because Garnet tells them to stop and pulls them back before there was even any indication that the wall was going to break and water was going to spill out.
Yes, yes, we do. Yeah, we move along so we get through. Yeah, so this is another episode. We kind of start seeing a little bit of their extra powers. We don't really get, I think the next episode we get amethysts.
Mhm. I don't remember. I think,
Shape shifting.
yeah.
I think it's the next up. They have these extra bits. So, the future vision definitely is from Sapphire because Sapphire is known for for her future vision, which is pretty cool. But yeah, water. The wall crumbles, water comes rushing out, and so like, what do we do? And they all look to Steven because they realize that he has good ideas,
Steven's just a good boy with good ideas.
and he doesn't need his powers to do stuff. And we get Cheeseburger Backpack.
I love all their tiny smiles as they look at Steven.
I know, they're just so excited for him. So Steven then whips out the yellow thing we saw before with the handles. Like, it's not a sleeping bag, it's a raft! Yeah! And he throws it in the water and it just floats away.
It's fine. Steven, you can't win all of them, but it was a very good idea. Just like the concept of flowing water kind of, ruined that for you.
And that's what, that's what I believe it's Garnet says is like, it was a great idea. Yeah, not everyone can win it because Garnet just kicks over
I also love
a pillar.
Pearl just goes, Steven, that's so sensible, and like is genuinely just congratulating him on having actually important things, which would make sense. If I know I'm going into the middle of the ocean, a raft genuinely is useful to bring.
Yeah, I don't know if he knew where he was actually going.
True. I mean, all he
I
knew
think
is that
he just put it in there because he's like, this could be useful.
he just knew it was called the Lunar Sea Spire, so I may be making a guess on the sea name.
Maybe.
But even then, it seems like he just kind of shoved things in there.
Yeah, he just hoarded it up like his dad. So we climb all the way to the top of the spire, which is poking out, but no one questions it. It's fine. And they're just in time. Like, it is time for the statue. Let's do this. And what happens, Sid?
I mean, the thing that was definitely obvious from the beginning, this boy forgot the who got a statue. He got too excited.
Why wouldn't you check his backpack? You know this boy has ADHD. You know it.
I know.
And it's just, I feel for Steven because he's just so frantic and just so like, he's, like, I know how much this meant to you and I messed up.
I know, it's so sad. It is probably the most childlike thing ever of just going, oh, like, don't cry. I messed up and I'm very sorry. And he's so sad about it. And it's like, we could try something else.
And he's like, I have Mr. Queasy. It's the same thing, right? So he puts Mr. Queasy up there.
Oh, this poor boy. So he moves the Mr. Queasy, hoping maybe that will work, which, I mean.
And for a moment, you think it does because this moon shines down, Mr. Queasy floats up, and then it is just like, nope.
No.
They exploded Mr. Queasy.
I know. His poor Mr. Queasy toy is gone.
I mean, hopefully they can go to the store and get another. And then the water starts closing in because the magic is done. There's no more magic.
I will say, I would love to see what this actually would have done if it was correct.
Right? Like, would it have remade it or would it just, like, protected it?
No, well, because Pearl does say that if they put the Moon Goddess statue back, it would restore it. So it would literally fix everything. All of the buildings would return back to their correct shape. All of the, like, decay of years would return.
I don't know. Do they have to wait for that specific point? Or was just like whenever, like they had to wait for this one moment when the moon was above on the winter solstice or summer solstice or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay.
I think, yeah, it was that specific time because the way it closes in is very mechanical. Like, it looks like
It looks like a gear. I was just going to say that. It looks like a gear.
So I'm wondering if genuinely they needed, because also, as an aside, we later on find out that they have a base on the moon. So I wonder if they do have to actually put it in there because the moon is in the right position to get like the satellite uplink to say, hey, don't delete this building. We still need it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But alas, it is for naught.
Yeah. Instead, it is crumbling.
And it is destroyed in a gear. And of course, Steven's upset. And it's like, I'm sorry. I tried.
You know, it's so sad. I mean, they're not mad at him.
No, in true Jim fashion, they're like, hey, it's okay. Like, 2 of your 4 ideas worked. That's 50%. Like, that's honestly better than I think they thought he would do.
Exactly.
But you come to find out that actually 3 of his ideas work, because then
Raft pops up.
his little raft pops up, and you're like, "Oh, Steven."
It's so cute. And also I just love how supportive they are. Like Steven's almost on the verge of tears because he's like, I broke it, it's my fault. And they're like, hey, no, don't cry, kiddo. You did a great job.
Yeah, like, you're learning, it's okay, you had great ideas, like, they're really actually acknowledging and appreciating him for the fact that he can't use his gym yet, but he's still trying, and they're supportive of him figuring this out in his own way, and even when they get on the rack, "Yeah, Cheeseburger Backpack did it!" Like, "You're right, it helped this mission."
It's so sweet. I do love Garnet's deadpan delivery of it's a 3-hour paddle home.
Yeah, they're Cheeseburger Backpack, and then Garnet's just like, "It's 3 hours home."
And they're like, oh well, that's actually gonna be a little trouble. And then Steven's like, I've got wet bagels.
That none of them eat except him.
And Amethyst, I'll say. Amethyst might put them in her mouth and eat them and just like
Oh, just the thought of that soggy bread just makes
I hate soggy bread. It's so gross.
I just paused it at a perfect point where it's literally Steven with his tongue out and Pearl's like,
Oh, we actually do have an exact location for where the Lunar Sea Spire was.
okay. Oh, yeah, 3 hours from home.
Yeah, on Earth, northwestern in the Atlantic Ocean, between Newfoundland and South Greenland is the exact actual location. I looked it up.
Between Newfoundland and South Greenland. Okay, so that puts Beach City, if it's 3 hours from there. I don't have a world map up on this.
That wouldn't be super far because we know Beach City is also we know it's on the East Coast, and it is less than a 30-minute flight to quote unquote New York, Empire City. So yeah, that would make sense reasonably. A 3-hour paddle, maybe because they're gems, so they could probably do it faster because it's definitely not a 3-hour boat ride.
Yeah. So I'm literally looking at a map right now to see where. Okay, so there's Greenland. So they're somewhere in Canada.
Yeah, so they're higher up in the eastern Atlantic or northwestern Atlantic.
They're Canadian, eh?
Yeah, New York's pretty close to Canada.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, you can get to Niagara Falls from New York pretty fast. Like, it's only like a couple hour drive.
We know they're in America because when we meet, what was his name? Stephen's uncle. That's when we find out this is definitely 100% America that they're in because he's like, it's all like, I'm proudly an American. We're in America. You have to do these kinds of things.
That's true, but they might not have put that because if it's a 3-hour paddle, if it's between South Greenland and Newfoundland, so that puts it in the middle of the Atlantic. For it to be a 3-hour, I mean, like you said, they could. So they could be in like Halifax or something, which is pretty close to America.
I would believe they're in upstate. Like they might
Like
not,
Maine?
yeah, like they might not even be in New York State. They might be in Maine and just because then also again the flight that they take is on Lapis, and that doesn't. I don't think that counts for counting.
Yeah, I mean, and they are gems, and they can literally turn into. I mean, Amethyst can literally turn into like a chopper.
Exactly.
So I bet you could turn it into a motor and still get. I'm really glad we're having this conversation for all of you to listen to about where
exactly is Beach City. I will just say, yeah, the only thing we know to confirm is that Beach City is in the United States. Purely because when we meet Steven's uncle, he is very much like,
He's very American.
I'm an American. This is America. We do American things. It's like, okay, so this is in America.
Only America. Oh, good to know. That's all right. Sweet.
And then some other little research I did about the Lunar Sea Spire itself, which we do actually find out its function from Bismuth.
Dude, gosh, okay, so now we're going to drop on stuff that I don't remember. Okay.
Bismuth said that the Sea Spire was purely for intellectual gems in society that they would go to make ideas and planning. So it was purely for the like thinker gems.
Okay. Interesting. So not a spa.
Not, I mean, probably a little bit of a spa.
It's probably like, like the Olds Boy Club where they go and they like sit in a sauna and talk about like whatever old men talk about that isn't creepy.
It's a country club.
It's a country club for gems.
And then the design was actually specifically to be a mix between the Tower of Babel and the Tower of Pisa.
I say they succeeded in that. It looks like both.
Yeah, you did a very good job making it a mix of those two because that is what I thought of.
Like, bravo.
And I wonder if that's like, because we were talking earlier about historically, no one ever goes to this area. I wonder if this is what inspired the myths of, or like the story of the Tower of Babel. Because if this is where all the thinker gems, quote unquote, went, and the whole story about the Tower of Babel is people became too smart and were like getting too close to where God was and trying to reach the heavens, which the entire light show between the statue and the moon is definitely feels like reaching the heavens.
Yes, definitely. I would agree with
I
that.
wonder if they had another Sea Spire or something like it somewhere else that was for the gems, but the story of it kind of got a little mixed up and it also crumbled.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what we get the whole thing.
I like that. Mixing some gym into actual history. I'm here for that.
Yeah. We do see an actual map of it in the game Attack the Light. We see what the map of the spire looks like, showing that it gets smaller on each level and there is also a secret basement.
Ooh, see, I've never played the games.
It's pretty nice. It's a very fun game. This is where you meet the first ever actual like garnets that aren't a fusion.
Oh, okay.
Which, yeah, that's where you find out, oh, garnets are war generals. That is what they're designed. They are like definitely combat gems, but higher up. In the same way that like emeralds, I think, are the highest ranking war generals. And then it's garnets, and then actual foot soldiers like Jasper, and then quartz soldiers. Well, or Jasper is a quartz soldier, so then foot soldiers, and then below that are rubies.
Interesting.
But yeah, we do find out from Bismuth that it is for the intellectual gems of society.
Okay.
And that's where they go to think. Yeah, and also all of Lapis's water tower was designed the same way. The tower that Lapis builds in the water, it looks like the Lunar Sea
It
Spire.
looks like it. Yeah, it does. A lot.
Either she's been here or they use the same design.
Or, I mean, how long was Lapis in the Mirror for?
So long, too long.
Because I'm trying to remember, Lapis in the Mirror. Because because I mean, possibly she could have been taken to it.
It would make sense also if Lapis had a part in creating it.
Yeah.
Because the function of a lapis that we don't get until the zoo arc is that lapises are terraformers. Their entire job is to terraform.
Yeah, because Lapis was only supposed to be on Earth for a little bit, but then got caught in the middle of the war, and she was pooped by Bismuth
Mhm.
in a home. They thinking that she was a crystal gem, and then she was put in the mirror. So, I mean, she could have possibly been taken to, like, I mean, granted, I know it was like a place for smarts, but I mean, she still could have been taken to the Sea Spire as they're discussing warplanes and stuff.
I mean, yeah, definitely. It would make sense for Lapis to be there. We also know that Lapis was a sort of middle class gem because she recognizes some of the upper crust stuff, but doesn't recognize the very higher things like Pearl does because Pearl had access to a diamond. But also, the concept that gems have a prison system is still wild to me. It's like, oh yeah,
Wild.
what's prison? It's being trapped in solitary for hundreds of thousands of years. It's like, oh, feels like a war crime.
Like, that's a war crime for sure. So, is there anything else we want to say about season 1, episode 3, Cheeseburger Backpack?
I need to buy a cheeseburger backpack.
I would also like a cheeseburger backpack. You know, that's the thing. Out of all the conventions I've gone to, which, gentle listeners, I've been to a lot of conventions because I have no impulse control and I like spending money on things I don't need to spend money for, and I really like it. I don't know if I've ever seen a Steven Universe cosplayer with a cheeseburger backpack. So if you're a Steven Universe cosplayer, please have a cheeseburger backpack so I can just fall in love with you.
Yes, I need it. Also, tell me where you bought it so I can get one.
Yeah, so I can also get one. If you get the cheeseburger backpack, I'll get the hot dog. I'll get the hot dog duffel,
Yes, there we go.
and then we can just take pictures with them because that would be magical.
Yes.
So I think that is all for season 1, episode 3, Cheeseburger Backpack. Cheeseburger Backpack. Cheeseburger Backpack. You can also find us on Twitter at the Crystal Thems Pod. I forgot the name of our Twitter for a second. That was bad. So please subscribe and follow us over there. Please subscribe and follow us on Spotify and Google Podcast, and maybe one day Apple Podcasts. We'll see. One day, maybe. So please, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review. Only if it's good. If it's bad, I don't know, DM us on Twitter and yell at us. Why not?
Listen, will I 100% pay attention? Possibly not. But you can do it. You can scream into the void that is the Twitter DMs.
You are more than welcome to. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Crystal Thems. And remember, you're one of us, Clods. We're not the Crystal Thems without you.